I want you to imagine yourself at about 8 years old. You've just finished your homework for the day, and you finally get to sit down and you turn on that gaming console. Within it, a game disc is spinning or a cartridge is being read, and its contents you are captivated by. You're obsessed with this game. You love its universe, its characters, its music, its story. All of it is enthralling. It elicits an excitement so profound that it is cemented in your childhood, a memory you can constantly look back to. However, you grow older, and games don't seem to grip you in the same way.
It's not that you aren't open to new experiences, but nothing seems to penetrate your walls. Time flows forward. More and more games appear in your vicinity, and it's a little overwhelming. You can't seem to deeply connect in the same way you once did. That feeling, that childlike enthrall, now completely distant. Then suddenly, you're 27, and you begin to hear loud proclamations of a new game that has truly broken that very specific mold you thought was exclusive to you.
It made me feel like I did when I was 11 years old. So hard, but they kind of went in, I think, thinking, how can I make players feel like they did when they were a kid?
Hell, even, I kid you not, your own family, but yes, the dogs included, also begin to tell you that something incredible has just hit the gaming space. So you buckle down, you play the game. You play Clair Obscur. And unfortunately, you realize something. The game these people love, the game that is said to be a start-to-finish masterpiece, you realize actually isn't. You realize all those people were wrong, because somehow, it's even better.
When one falls, we continue.
Family is complicated.
It doesn't seem that far now.
It might be our only shot. This is your only shot. Putain!
Friends are not distractions.
Everywhere we go, just death. Death and more death. I don't want to see that anymore.
He just wants you to fly.
People who know me know when it comes to video games, I don't play many. Don't get me wrong, I love Crash Bandicoot and I'm an absolute gun at The Sims 4. And don't get me wrong, I'm unapologetically a huge Final Fantasy IX fan. Like, when that remake comes out, that will be my personality for months, I guarantee you.
But I haven't felt this emotional grip with a piece of gaming so strongly since first playing something like Final Fantasy VII when I was, get this, 7 years old. But Clair Obscur is that kind of game. And I know for a fact lots of people feel the same way about it. You see, it's one thing for a game to have an attractive story that resonates with players, but it's on another level when a game leverages all the specific aspects that come with being an interactive medium and nails all of them to enhance that narrative experience. And for a game to outright perfect each individual component is something I never thought I would see in my lifetime.
The story, the art direction, the character writing, the gameplay, the music, the casting, the voice acting, the character designs, maybe not the mimes, they upset me. Color and sound, this game delivers with extreme elegance.
The craziest part of all of this being this game was developed by a group of roughly 50 or so people, showcasing to everyone just how much further a game, nay, an experience can mean to consumers when the people behind the product are not rushed to create half-baked slop, but are instead given the time they feel works best for them to create a game that they themselves have also been wanting to play. And that right there, that's poetry in motion, man. 6 years is insane dedication. That's a lot of time spent working on one project, and at the same time, incredible considering the output quality of that project. And them being a small studio, success was never really guaranteed to them, but they took that chance. They bravely took that leap and created an absolute gem.
If you'll excuse me, I'm just gonna break down real quick the purpose of this video. The first third of this video I'm going to try to keep as spoiler free as possible for the newcomers who have yet to actually experience this video game. I'm hoping to entice enough intrigue to at least get you to try it out for yourself. While I will have to talk about certain moments in this game specifically to kind of reinforce just how good the writing actually is in this, I promise not to spoil anything major. However, if you are worried about any potential spoilers, I will include timestamps on screen so you can skip over them.
I'll also talk about encounters and showcase vision of certain areas in the game you will at one point explore, so if you want to go in completely blind, maybe play the game first and put me in your watch later playlist. The last quarter of this video, however, will be a massive spoiler as it's dedicated to the very thing that cemented this piece of fiction as my favourite game ever made, its endings, and that is something you need to experience yourself.
Let me be clear, this video is just an extended glaze session and I will not apologize for it. In fact, I'll do the opposite. Fuck you. But that's exactly why I want to talk about it. Media that you can engage with, media that makes you feel a certain way, or media that outright challenges you is media I want to talk about here on the channel.
But look, don't take my word for it. Let's instead let the game talk, as what first got me interested in it was, without question, its premise. In the town of Lumiere, a small civilization resides, all no older than 34, and the reason behind this becomes very clear very quickly. Across the sea of Lumiere resides an incredible monolith, a size so towering its contents are clear from so far away. A large 34 is painted on the menhir, and it shines from across the sea, with a giantress resting at its front. Every year on the same day, this being stands tall and paints over the number present on the monolith, always descending by 1. Everybody's age above or precisely that number will die in an instant. 32 now being the oldest someone can be until the next year comes around and they are erased. Nobody knows why the infamous paintress does this, but each year humanity draws a little closer to that answer, as each year an expedition into the paintress's domain takes place. People brave its hostile environment, overcome its aggressors in search of the truth. Each year they aim to kill the paintress so that she will never paint death again. And this year, the 67th attempt will be made. This year is the 33rd expedition's turn. With all the knowledge their predecessors left behind, they aim to bring about an end to this vicious and twisted cycle.
Look, I get it. You're probably very similar to me when I first heard this. You're confused, because you fell in love so quickly, and that doesn't usually happen. Well, what if I told you that was just a basic premise of maybe a tenth of what this game is truly all about? The first 10 minutes don't just get the waterworks flowing because of beautiful musical composition and fantastic direction, but also it sets some really interesting rules.
We are told it's a task nobody has ever really completed. We are destined to face consequences because, like the people before us, we are just people. We aren't inherently special in nature. It's easy to go into most games with the thought of, well, we are the protagonists, we are bound to bring about change, but Clair Obscur outright tells you this world is a cruel cycle of grief. Death is commonplace. Hell, this very day, the day in which people are erased, is now a festival of sorts. You are simply not special, nor were the other 67 attempts before you, and this game makes that very apparent the moment you reach the island for the first time.
The only thing separating you from that last expedition is the additional knowledge they've gained is now present for you. Through their deaths, they've slightly increased your odds, and keep that in mind for later. This is going to be in the test, and it has some relevance to the gameplay.
We are people. People who give in to despair and make rash decisions that cost us greatly. We are people who sometimes lose parts of our own humanity in pursuits of misguided beliefs. We are just human beings. Hurt people forced into a situation against their own choice. Our main character and best boy Gustav, upon witnessing another cycle, is so damaged and hurt from having to continually watch as more and more lives from Lumiere are taken away by the will of the paintress. But the look he gives that monolith isn't one of anger, it's the look of a tired and helpless man. And that's who we are.
And look, I don't want to sexualize despair, but come on, that's so sexy! Don't Gamage, you're so sexy, haha. And a big part of that sex appeal comes from some fantastic visual direction.
Baby, come here, bring it to me, I wanna see what that body do. Baby, come here, bring it to me, I'll spend my night with you.
It's impossible to both look at this game and my face and not think, damn, that's kind of nice to look at. It's kind of sexy. Instantly, the game is cinematic, as if it could work as its own animated standalone film.
Running through this world is an absolute spectacle. The town of Lumiere feels vibrant and rich with a legacy of history behind it. The recognizable houseman style of France is so distinctive and unique, really making you feel like this surreal take on the baguette-making place has truly been lived in. But now you can feel its emptiness. The streets are occupied, but in such small numbers compared to its buildings. Moments where the town is to unite, you notice how little actually gather. And while not everyone chooses to gather outside on the day of erasure, hell, I mean, just ask the game's director.
Not everyone attends the Living Wake or goes to the harbour for the gommage.
Yeah, he voiced some of the moaning in that building. He's brilliant. I tell you what, he's brilliant.
This small town is truly the majority of what's left, and that is genuinely haunting. But outside of the town, you explore these incredibly surreal landscapes and notice very strange things amongst them. Remnants of man-made iconography sitting in plain sight in spaces that are so far from human. Clair Obscur is that fantastic, uncanny valley that escapists like myself adore. It's a world that feels like the dream of a child being hijacked by something dark and sinister. An effect like this can only come to fruition if the agency behind a product's direction can truly understand how this universe operates. There will be many moments when running through these breathtaking set pieces you will find yourself stopping just to take in the many sights this game has on offer, rewarding you for your work by providing these spectacles that you are just free to take your time indulging in, constantly reminding you how far you've come. And truly, just how little you actually know.
My favorite example of this being whenever you camp for the night. The best moments in this game, in my opinion, actually happen in this space. Whenever you're in the overworld, you have the option of camping.
Nothing is lost in doing so. It's essentially your way of setting up yourself before you venture out again. Here in this space, the campsite you constantly return to, you will always have a clear view of the paintress. Your goal is always there, but it's always out of reach. No matter how many stones you throw, you're not able to hit her from this distance. It's up to your perseverance as a player to close that gap.
And dude, look, I understand. I shouldn't be sexualizing the mental struggles and desperation of our crew. But come on, that's so sexy!
If a dream goal was so simple, they wouldn't truly be a dream. And this site is a view characters will have to grow used to in their long journey forwards. But even if the paintress feels always so distant, each step into the continent is a small step closer, and that drive pushing them forward is exceptionally infectious on us players. Everything in this game has purpose. Nothing is put to air without its essentialness, yes, that's a word, I looked it up, being considered. On one hand, just seeing the result of what the game refers to as the fracture, that being the birth of this broken state of the world, is so interesting and surreal. From the distorted Eiffel Tower to a giant Ferris wheel cemented into the earth, and while it's stunning to look at, it also just says so much about what's going on without saying anything at all. And then when the entire truth of this game comes to light, the whiplash you receive is immense. Suddenly, these minor moments have huge implications. And that's what I love about this game's direction. It by design doesn't just spark intrigue, but it's utilized to support its overarching narrative. The reason direction is absolutely spectacular and noticeable in this game comes down to the ways in which Sandfall Interactive delegates its tasks to its exceptionally talented team. There are directors from very small departments that all work together to create a solid gaming experience. Guillaume Broche, as an example, is the CEO and creative director, essentially the overseer of the entire creative vision, ensuring what is put together co-aligns with what he perceives in his mind. Followed by the art director Nicolas Maxon-Francombe, whose job is to capture that very idea and elevate it through their abilities as an artist. Carla DeVries and Matthew Kostad working under Nicholas's supervision to bring these environments to life in a way that feels authentic, despite the uncanny valley nature of all these places.
And the list goes on. The structure of the workplace is so unique and interesting, and I cannot overstate just how integral all of these people are to the final product. I'll talk more about some of them individually when we talk about specifics of the game and how they relate to those specifics. So for now, just know, good direction is a pipeline of people who don't just make cool shit, but know why their shit in question is cool.
And hey, speaking of cool, nobody is more fitting to a title than Jennifer Svedberg-Yan, the lead writer in Clair Obscur, because their ability to convey ideas and emotion through words alone is on another level. Okay, look, maybe Minoko is also worthy of that title, like the team's happiness manager is essential to high productivity. Now look, I have a media arts degree, which basically means I can do really cool edits like this.
I didn't have anything planned for this. I thought it would come to me in the script, but I've got nothing. Oh, what's my nose doing? Get back here. Come back, you fuck.
So my opinion on what makes for good writing shouldn't be treated as the be-all, end-all. But what makes for good writing, I'd argue, is already somewhat subjective anyway. I don't mean this in a literal sense. I know bad grammar and spelling mistakes exist. But I find personally, writing that is accessible, writing with personality, and writing that resonates with people is the best kind of writing. And I know for a fact, a lot of people resonate with Jennifer's words. While the story in its entirety was a three-person process, her abilities to deliver on that overarching narrative is truly something special. And speaking of narratives, her story as a writer for this game is a rather interesting one. She was simply looking for activities to try out because she enjoyed experiencing different things.
And I was on Reddit, again, as you do, browsing Reddit, and came across a Reddit post looking for free voice actors for a technical test that he was doing.
And what was her response to this? Well, simply,
hey, that sounds cool. I've never done voice acting. That sounds fun.
That go with the flow attitude and excitement to try new shit. Oh, I aspire to be that cool one day. However, upon discussion with Guillaume over time, he saw an exceptional ability to write in Jennifer. The questions she would ask him when they worked on the concept together made him realize how brilliant a mind he was truly working with. 6 months into development of Clair Obscur was a penultimate moment for Jennifer, as a conversation with investors allowed her to think even bigger and grander. Not restricted by funding, Guillaume made the call to start from scratch, and that was the best decision they could have ever made. Because this is when they began to write Expedition 33. The reason why Clair Obscur's writing is so tight and earnest is because it starts with a fascinating level of interpersonalism. Characters are outright based on Jennifer's own thoughts and feelings throughout different periods of her life.
I pulled from different parts of my life. Maëlle, I drew heavily from myself as a teen. A lot of the loneliness that I felt, the feeling that, something just doesn't make sense about the world. Everybody just gets something that I don't. And for Lune, it's a lot of me in my 20s, also me working in finance and academia. Ciel was, I drew from experiences in my 30s. Gustave, I drew a lot of from the idealism and the naivety of that time period, So I drew from a lot of my imposter syndrome and also my feelings of who am I, the duality of identity. That's where a lot of that dialogue came from, was from feelings that I felt.
Every word each character speaks has so much reason and weight behind it because it's founded in humanity. From what I could gather, the very concept of this game came from a piece of art that swayed Guillaume. A canvas that depicted a lady near a giant monolith. And while that was nothing but a visual idea, Jennifer had actually been working on a short story at the time and realized it could perfectly sync with this concept. But that's not all. One of the biggest themes of Clair Obscur came to be through a conversation Guillaume would have with his own mum, simply posing the question, what is the worst thing that could ever happen to you? And her simply responding with, to lose you. Or to lose any of her children for that matter.
And this idea bleeds into every facet of Clair Obscur's storyline. The entire narrative is unyielding grief, but yet Jennifer writes in a way that feels far from hopeless. It's not obtuse and edgy, but bittersweet and melancholy. Despite the hand that these guys are dealt, they play anyway. And like people, they're gonna fail from time to time. They will fall backwards from time to time, but like people too, sometimes they pick themselves back up.
And while I want to talk at lengths about the brilliance of this story and how every little thing in it connects with itself, I don't want to spoil the story for you newcomers, so instead, I'll talk about its character writing, which I believe is where Jennifer's work shines the absolute most.
I'm going to have to dissect a few conversations in this next segment to really talk about the grandness of the character writing here, but I won't be spoiling anything major, but I will have to spoil something. So if you don't want any of this spoiled for you, just skip to this time code here.
At the campsite, best boy Gustave is comforting young Maëlle after the hell they had been through so far. In this conversation, Gustave requests if she encounters a certain figure again, she needs to run far and fast for their team is not ready to tackle such an obstacle. She then states she will only run if he does the same, and instantly Gustave retorts with,
Oh, I'm running. You won't even see me, I'm running so fast.
Oh, please, you're an old man. I can outrun you any day.
Yeah, right.
They laugh together, and this conversation wraps up with one of my absolute favourite lines in the whole game. As the chuckle settles, Gustav says,
There was a time when 30 was young, you know?
Sure.
What I love about this exchange is how it juggles so many different ideas with very few lines. It firstly establishes the closeness between Gustav and Mael. We never got to know what they were like prior to this expedition. We didn't get to see their past lived experiences, but you can feel their closeness through an interaction like this.
They can laugh and smile when they are together, a bond unshaken despite their circumstances. This also aids intrigue to how Mael views Gustav. We can't tell if he's like an older brother or a father type figure in her life, and I love that it lets us decide as we play and see them grow into their own. We can see his role as her caretaker, but we also see he trusts her enough to make her own decisions. The conversation would then so effortlessly and cleverly tie back into the very world of Clair Obscur by establishing the kinds of thoughts and ideas that surround the people of Lumiere. It reaffirms how long humanity has been forced to watch countless times as the paintress slowly but surely forces them into a corner. Once upon a time, 70 was old, then 60, then 50, once 40, and now 30. But this is just one example in a sea of brilliant examples. Take a small scene featuring one of our main characters, CL. She lost her husband well before his age was painted on the monolith, and upon his passing, she beautifully articulates what the feeling is like.
Every day, I just felt the lack of him. The negative space he used to inhabit. The dip in the chair where he sat. The hollow of his shoes. The emptiness inside his jacket.
She had prepared herself for his departure from the world when the paintress was to inscribe his number, but never a moment before, which I think perfectly depicts the sudden nature of death. It doesn't discriminate, it just happens and there is nothing we can do about it. We all want to grow old and die peacefully, but even something as simple as that is never guaranteed to us. So while this story offers in some level a little bit of solace in knowing their life has a deadline, it simultaneously creates an even more cosmic dread. The people of Lumiere are not even guaranteed their shortened lifespan, which is already a horrid concept, so imagine my surprise when Jennifer delves even deeper into it and explores avenues I hadn't even considered straight away. Is it fair to bring children into this world when they are guaranteed to be orphans before long? Is it fair their lives will be even shorter than their parents? Or is it better for them to have lived rather than to never have lived at all? These exceptionally specific topics are the lifeblood of this story. Everyone, and I mean everyone in this game, has their own problems and struggles. The only thing unifying them is the despair they are forced to face every single day.
That right there is how you write unique and interesting characters. Because every character in this game has stuff going on that is somewhat all connected to this overarching idea, you're able to have these really organic and natural conversations.
Lune is a character who, despite coming across as calculated, cold and methodical, actually has
no idea what I'm doing. And I don't think anyone else does either.
She says this as a means to comfort young Mael amidst their grieving, but Lune also knows how impressionable adults can be. So this isn't just the means of comforting her. She hates liars, so she is instead being as upfront as she possibly can be. Lune is someone haunted by the indelible marks left upon her from how she perceived her own family. Her strive to follow protocols and maintain the mission's priority is a direct result of how her family went about their time as expeditioners when they were still alive. What I love about this particular relationship is how Jennifer deliberately leaves things vague enough that we are allowed to tackle this subject in our own way. Whether Lune's parents truly viewed her as a simple means to an end in their work, or if this just showcases exactly how much faith they have in her own daughter, is naturally up to you to decide as you play the game. I also love that despite her professional exterior, she is also someone whose childlike wonder can get the better of her. I don't know, man, there is something about strong female leads that are so much cooler than I'll ever be, having just that tiny little adorable side to them that just gets my heart pumping. And boy, Lune does, man. Her riz is fucking insane.
The gesturals being that aspect of her that she just can't contain, her excitement for is really cute and endearing, and I really like it. And hey, speaking of gesturals, what a perfect segue into, get this, how genuinely laugh out loud, lol, if you will, funny this game actually is.
Clair Obscur has a really interesting mood prominent throughout it. After everything I have told you, you're left thinking this is a game that will make you feel stressed and upset, and while at times this game will absolutely do that and more, it balances its genuinely fantastic comedy and sense of childlike wonder beautifully.
But reading it, I was just like, this is actually quite funny, you know, and that's kind of unusual. And I was like, oh yeah, well, what is the tone of this?
No distractions, son. I'm really busy beating up strangers.
And in most cases, this is a confusing and challenging dichotomy to get right. But when you can mix these two extremities together, you well and truly get an exceptionally emotional and gratifying experience. At the heart of Clair Obscur is an adventure to be had, and in adventure, fun will rear its head. And you can feel that immediately upon entering the gestural village. Small, folk-like creatures in the eyes of Lumiere's inhabitants reminiscent of drawing mannequins with paintbrush-looking hair. They live to fight, but aren't so barbaric as to not welcome trade. They have their own village and share a symbiotic relationship of sorts with the creatures you encounter during your expedition known as Nevrons. The Nevrons are harvested of their resources and provide a great deal of fun for the Gestrals in the battles they will have with them.
So needless to say, these guys are fucking crazy, but in a way that's like, kind of interesting. Walking around this town, you'll get a gleam for all the Gestrals and their very differing personalities. From the old brush back there who is notorious for not training anybody, probably because he's a jerk. Oh. Sorry. Probably because he's a jerk.
Hey, fool.
To a doctor who's just laying on the ground watching other Gestrals die, and if you even were to call him lazy once, he will drop a huge existential life bomb on you and make you feel guilty. To blatant Final Fantasy VIII references, which, oh, I love it. To literal memes. And finally, the greatest interaction with an NPC I have ever experienced.
Fucking poetry. Comedy is a very hard thing to write.
It's surprisingly something that's really hard to do. It's something that I very clearly struggle to do every day. Hell, the funniest joke I ever made on this channel was this one.
My shirt makes me look like a pedophile.
And I have yet to capture that lightning in a bottle ever again.
But what's even harder than writing a funny joke is fitting it into a world that is overall quite mature. Despite the grounded nature of Clair Obscur, it is done exceptionally well, and to showcase how, I want to give you a comparative example. I'm going to take two separate scenes from two separate stories, both with the shared intention behind the joke being the strange reality they are truly facing, but playing amongst stories that are quite mature in nature.
Yes, this is the unfortunate part of the video where I explained why a joke is funny, which I know is completely counterintuitive because, well, if a joke is funny, you shouldn't need to have it explained to you as to why it's funny. The first attempt of this idea is kind of low-hanging fruit, but I think it does set a pretty interesting precedent. It's a scene that was so bad and unfunny that it in itself became a meme for being so bad and unfunny.
Oh, they fly now! They fly now? They fly now!
I know it's a cheap shot, but man, that line fucking sucks. The grounds of this joke being to reinforce how wacky and wild this situation is, to make that sudden escalation of events something to laugh along with. The problem with this is how in your face it's being though, stating the absolute obvious because, in case you didn't know, they didn't used to fly. 10 out of 10, best movie, man. You shouldn't need to tell people that something is funny. That subtlety is completely lost, which is why it's so laughably bad. But now take Clair Obscur's similar approach to this. The crew encounter legendary Francois, a giant rock-like turtle with an absurdly British accent. They are after one of his stones for their quest, but despite the politeness of our cast, he gets angry very quickly.
Not only are you intruding, you're here to steal? Oh my word! Humans! Well, over my dead body! Rah!
There is no direct call to what's happening here. None of the cast outright state, "You're telling me we gotta fight a talking rock?" That's like something out of a video game! Instead, the battle music begins to play as the roar occurs, the game brilliantly suggesting to our characters a fight is beginning. But of course, our characters can't hear that sound and just stand there completely puzzled, unsure of how to respond to any of this, never vocally stating how they feel about the situation, and letting the awkwardness of their body suggest to you exactly what they are thinking.
It's natural and organic, and I am such a sucker for Maxine Carzola's physical performance here. The little twists of the wrists here, chef's kiss, my friend.
And that is present a lot in this game, moments that can catch you completely off guard, but never in a way that feels unfaithful to what's being built up.
But look, man, that's all just story, right? And I could get that from a book or a film, but this is a video game. So how does the video game game? Well, like this.
I personally have always, and I mean always, been a fan of turn-based combat. Final Fantasy IX was my favourite game of all time for many years until this bad boy suddenly appeared, with 7 and 10 closely following after. So even without the flashiness of quick time events and parrying mechanics, I would have already been sold on its gameplay. Though I know that isn't the case for everyone, and if anything, without these inclusions, it would be easy to write off the battle system as just a turn-based system and nothing more.
I'm going to generalize a lot here, but I do think it's kind of evident that the gaming space has changed a lot. It seems as the gaming space is growing bigger and bigger, audiences have preferred in the JRPG genre more fast-paced action.
Turn-based systems have a strange infamy, as if their existence slows a game down to a crawl, and while I couldn't disagree more, I can also understand that some people just aren't interested in that type of game. Clair Obscur, however, has found a brilliant balance, mixing that traditional turn-based combat we would see in the genre with additional features that really make it its own. Turn-based combat has never felt faster with the implementation of a parry, dodge, and bonk system. During a battle, when it's an enemy's turn, they will proceed to swing at you various times, and players can respond one of 3 ways. Either tank the damage as their build plays into low health or AP is gained upon hit, dodge an attack meaning you have a large escape window upon each swing and won't take damage, or you respond directly to those attacks with a parry. Though the window is tighter, if repeated in perfect succession, it will allow a counter-attack, and let me tell you, the elation upon seeing the text Expedition 33 performs a counter never subsides. It doesn't matter how many times it appears or how late in the game you are, the moment this text hits the screen is just woo-wee!
I've never had sex before, but I am certain that it would never match the sheer elation I feel when you pull off a perfect counter.
The fights aren't slow, but still encourage proper planning and judgment, as every enemy and each playable character operates differently. Mayal has various stances that change her damage and defense output. Each stance specific conditions must be met in order to achieve, with every move essentially changing them. To Gustav, who upon stacking attacks is able to build up their ability to deal significant damage. To Lune, whose use of Chroma allows her access to elemental attacks, whereupon their use generates a stain, which are used to further amplify certain attacks or outright required in order to use them. You also have free fire shots, as some enemies have weak points you can hit or respond to certain limbs being attacked.
There is so much packed into the arse of this thing, but what's crazy is fights are just one small part of an already gargantuan cheat.
But man, it's exceptionally fun and painfully addictive. You'll encounter bosses you objectively should not be facing so early on in the game, but there is something so addictive and enthralling about the way these fights play that you can't help but be sucked into them.
I would encounter bosses on the mainland which I know objectively speaking I am not ready for, and yet with a childlike determination, I was refusing to move on until I beat them.
Now I hope you were taking notes earlier, because I mentioned how one of the core ideas of Clair Obscur is how we are the 67th venture out to the monolith. There were many people before us who braved the water and trotted upon the lands in hopes of bringing an end to this cycle of death. While we have made new ground in technology, we have found better means of channeling Chroma. The only real advantage we have, though, is the additional information left behind from previous expeditions. The phrase "for those who come after" is prominent throughout this game. Its meaning and application is used at various moments, as it's quite an encompassing line. My favourite use of it, however, being in relation to the expeditioners themselves, how they essentially leave a trail behind with each embarkment, and we follow that trail. Upon our potential failure, we continue to build that trail for the next generation, and what's so cool about that idea is how it directly correlates with the gameplay. You are bound to get hit and die a bunch when playing this game, but with each attempt you have picked up new information. You begin to learn the attack patterns and timing of parries. If your first crew falls, your second crew can pick up the slack from there. You are constantly leaving a better chance for the next you to succeed, and man, isn't that just so cool?
You could theoretically become the you that can parry every single attack like it's nothing. The vision behind me, I didn't record that. Simon's way too hard. My little brother did this one. Fuck that guy. Not my little brother, did Simon.
The fights themselves are also exceptionally cinematic. The characters are rigged perfectly and move so fluidly as a result. With unique animations attached to every single move, you can feel the weight and creativity of each attack. A great example of this is if a character does not use a skill but hits for a basic attack, at the start of the game that attack is a singular hit. However, equipping certain upgrades allows for additional hits on that basic attack. The animators actually designed the basic hit animation with the intention of stringing it seamlessly into additional attack animations for additional hits. That's right, each character has a unique combo that's specifically designed for their basic attacks, so imagine my surprise when you look at this long list of skill charts and you realize that every, and I mean every one of these, is a unique animation for our characters. Hell, even the goddamn HUD is gorgeous. It's right in the thick of the fight, but not so distracting as to take away from the beautiful animations on screen. You're constantly pulled into the middle of the battle. It even corresponds with your camera shifting cleanly across the space in an exceptionally dynamic way. My favorite use of it being when you pull off a gradient parry. The force of the block pushing both your characters and the camera back, and then responding with a zoom as your character retaliates. Like, look at this! And boom! Oh, it's awesome! God, my body enjoys it every fucking time, man. The animation in this game is an outright masterclass in how it's done, which is crazy considering the animation team is built on, firstly, a leading animator who was discovered thanks to his showreels on YouTube, and secondly because his friends simply felt like helping as a side gig. So you're telling me none of these guys worked on this full time? How the fuck do you create these absolutely gorgeous and creative animations and not work a full-time schedule? Every damn creature in this game breathes in such a believable and unique way despite their lack of lungs. No animation is recycled but meticulously rigged and animated specifically to the very concept they are working with, and the amount of love in each one is evident. It's in the little details that make these guys shine the most. The little slam on the ground before the attack is just so threatening and a great indicator that the combo is about to start. The way the lamp master struggles to pull out its giant sword considering its length makes you realize just how much this next swing is gonna hurt. The contortionist being my favorite Nevron in this entire game, having a shifting 3 forms, all with movements so unpredictable it makes its string of combos all the more confusing and frightening.
They even made Kirito in this game. I love Kirito. He's like the best guy.
Every Nevron has such a solid attack pattern that you could outright describe how one of them attacks to a fellow player, and they would probably be able to guess the Nevron you're talking about. None of them, and again, I mean none of them, are the same. And I think one thing that really sticks out to me about the animation specifically is how each creature is animated to match the heights of our characters. It needs to be as precise as possible in order to ensure its parrying system is spot on accurate. Big guys attack overhead or sometimes low. Medium fellas attack at torso height, and little dudes will even jump up to hit you. That is not something that's easy to get right, and in a game that demands it be right, somehow this group of part-timers portray super accurately. And regarding character movement, motion capture isn't always used, but when it is, it's far from daunting.
You see, motion capture could be real hit or miss sometimes, even written off as the cheap and lazy way of animating things. And while I think getting a physical actor to play in your game is the furthest thing from lazy, I can understand to some extent its uncanniness can outright take you out of games sometimes.
However, Clair Obscur's animation is really really smooth. When characters move around a space, it feels like the motion capture artists are actually there in those spaces and not a studio. Their micro expressions add a completely new level of depth to their character that I just don't see often enough. Or at least in a way that's instantly noticeable like this. It's seamless and realistic, but more than anything, it's expressive. And that is the foundation of animation itself. Every single one of these lovable characters feel like lived experiences, and while the writing and animation go a long way to bring them to life, one thing that takes them to a whole new level is their casting.
Gustav?
I should have come for you.
When one falls, not if, when.
That was sad.
They're expecting a bit of a show.
She'll never paint again.
When I think about good voice acting in a video game, I genuinely think about this moment.
You probably shouldn't laugh anymore.
I'm not being facetious here. Okay, maybe just a little bit. But to be honest, I love this moment. In the history of great voice acting in video games, this is the most misrepresented example. Character Tidus from Final Fantasy X is feeling quite down after thinking back on his past. He is told to just try laughing through times where he's feeling his lowest. James Arnold Taylor, in this moment, is asked by directors to vocalize a forced laugh. Not a genuine laugh to a joke or scenario, but an awkward and unrealistic one. And he absolutely smashes it.
While yes, it is a real shame that this gets clipped out of context all the time, those who are familiar with it know just how brilliant and beautiful this moment actually is.
Too funny.
It was your idea.
Great voice acting entails moments like this. Performances so striking that they just remain in your brain after all this time. And I'm happy to say there are multiple moments like that in Clair Obscur.
The casting for this is genuinely exceptional. Jennifer English's performance as Maëlle is absolutely breathtaking at times. Moments of desperation and fear she handles with fantastic precision, able to hit notes and inflections that just gave me goosebumps. While the script accurately depicts Maëlle as a young and naive teenager, Jennifer English makes Maëlle feel that way. She is at times sarcastic and overly confident as well as charming, whilst other times completely drowned in her own despair and so frail a touch would break her. Charlotte Hopfner really gets that across with her physical performance as Maëlle, making her feel so enthusiastic when necessary, whilst reaffirming how small and fragile she actually is. And while Charlie Cox was only really in the studio for 4 hours to record all of Gustav's lines, he absolutely obliterated the standards in that short amount of time, even experiencing genuine imposter syndrome after being congratulated by many fans for his work.
I was in the studio for 4 hours maybe, and people keep saying how amazing it is and congratulations, and I feel like a total fraud.
And look, people may think this is kind of lame, but I for one think it's pretty admirable how honest they're being here. I mean, sure, it sucks I haven't actually engaged with the material now that it's completed, but also that doesn't mean they don't value it, especially considering how much effort actually went into the final performance. With just this gig, he was able to leave a genuinely compelling performance to be talked about at lengths by simps like myself. His fear and desperation articulated beautifully in moments where Gustav is at his absolute lowest, and yet his reassuring voice aids his comforting presence in times where the team really needs it. Kirsty Ryder absolutely had her work cut out for her playing a character like Lune, someone level-headed and exceptionally analytical, but showcases small moments of compassion that also come naturally. Lune is a character who is so complicated and genius that if anyone understands her, Kirsty does to the fullest extent. Her range and confusion genuinely stress-inducing in the best way possible. You can hear her hurt so crystal clearly that they stick with you well and truly after you finish this game. Her rigid nature brought to believability with Estelle Darnault's physical performance. She outright dominates scenes she's in with her demanding presence. Rich Keeble having what I think is the most succulent set of pipes I've ever heard, playing the chillest and raddest dude on the planet, Minoko. His moments of hilarity balanced perfectly with moments that are meant to feel more personal and endearing. He just knows exactly what is needed to deliver his lines in the best possible way.
Now come over here and let's snuggle. Little spoon. Obviously.
But man, does his talent shine the brightest when paired alongside Ben Starr. These two have incredible chemistry, feeding off each other with the energy and ease like that of brothers, which is incredible considering the dynamic between character Monoko, despite being named after the best little dude ever, and Verso is actually based on Guillaume's relationship with his brother in real life. They both understood the assignment, but don't just take my word for it. Have a listen.
Out of the question. I will never join you again.
There will be a lot of fighting, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
There will be a lot of fighting.
Exactly.
Count me in then.
Good.
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 Yes, good.
Ben Starr is phenomenal in this game. Obviously, he's phenomenal in everything he's in.
You feel unstoppable whenever this man talks, but when you hear him hurt, you feel so much pain. As expected, considering his criminally underrated role as Clive in Final Fantasy XVI.
That game rules, by the way. I understand that it's like a lot darker compared to most Final Fantasy games, but I quite like that angst and broodiness. I like depression for some reason. Don't like experiencing it, like watching others experience it.
I don't know what it is about Ben Starr, but he is just so great at bouncing off of everyone, which is incredible considering each of these voice recordings are done individually and never in a group. His conversations with actress Charlotte Nixt as CL being some of my personal favorites. Charlotte doing a beyond exceptional job at showing you a character that is both the most emotionally intelligent of the group, yet the one with the heaviest of guilts. She is a cracked glass window, and with just one extra stone, she will break. And man, when she does, God, the tears. I played this game twice, and I'm currently on my third playthrough, and I can confirm, both times I cried at the same scene, and it involves her. She is just that good. There are many more, the sidecast being just as incredible, but to talk about them a lot would unfortunately bring about spoilers, so what I will say quickly. Billy Fulford Brown doesn't have much screen time, yet her performance is incredibly memorable. Being one of the first performances we hear, she set such a high standard instantly, and I adore her ability to convey the bittersweetness and difficulty of her situation. You really want to spend more time with her in Lumiere just because of it. Devora Wild, Tracy Wiles, and Andy Serkis are incredible, but you should know that already. Incredibly tough roles bestowed upon them, yet they executed them brilliantly. To, of course, Maxine Carzola, who is also the motion capture performer for Gustav and Verso. His love for this game is so infectious, even getting upset when he had finished all of the motion capture work because he wanted to work on the game for longer. Thankfully, he was given the chance to voice the wonderful SKA, and man, does he crush it.
After the whole process, it was a 1-year process of mocap. I thought the adventure was over, and I think it was a few months after we were done shooting, Guillaume called me and told me, well, we would like you to be SKA, would you be interested? And to me, it was, wow, like the adventure continues.
Insane fucking talent, honestly.
Regarding the voice, I also don't know how you would go about giving audio direction to somebody who has to cast a giant floating pillow. But Maxon understood it completely and nails it.
His ability to heighten his inflections but talk at a slower than normal pace really gives this guy a ethereal feeling in nature. While his pitch and speed were adjusted in the post-audio editing of this game, they can only do so much and has a high likelihood of even ruining the believability of the performance, but that was obviously taken into consideration during the recording. And props to the audio engineers as well, you guys did such a great job. They created the essence of what a character from a dream would sound like. It's a performance reminiscent of Alan Oppenheimer's Falcor from The Neverending Story, completely entrancing you to a point where you just don't want to miss a word.
I too am ooh, but I'm also wee, so the wee balances the ooh.
Sounds like you're in a woo-wee type situation.
You really get me, Verso.
Although I'm a bit more woo than wee these days.
I love them so much, man.
And while I'm the kind of guy who does genuinely value personality over looks, I'm not going to pretend that doesn't play a factor at all in my preferences. And if you're wondering what my preferences are, it's all of this, all of them. Great character designs, y'all. I'm aware this is a one-sided love though, and it's not just because these characters are all fiction, but because I'm a cuck who would rather watch.
Everyone in this game has such a great design, and a lot of that comes down to how Nicolas Maxon Francombe tackles the art direction of this very game. During an interview with the official Xbox Live podcast, Nicolas states the following.
The inspiration first is just like, is what wasn't in the game, you know, to start with. Like from my knowledge of playing many games, I wanted to kind of get out of like the stuff that we've just seen a million times. It goes from like science fiction to space or to like zombies, all that kind of stuff. Just wanted to kind of just get my head out of there and just kind of see what I can try to come up with that was kind of original for me personally. In terms of like the outfits, we tried to come up with something kind of quite unique, kind of asymmetrical stuff that, like, again, it's something that someone has not seen yet.
That is precisely what is so memorable about the way this game looks. Characters that stick with you from years ago likely have done so because they provided a design that was unique at the time, or outright just hadn't been done before. Cloud's Drive stuck with us because this over-the-top anime-esque appearance wasn't a dominating spectacle at the time. The spiky hair and oversized sword was simply not a design choice we saw way back when. Samus sticks around because the Zero suit is loud in colour, contrasting beautifully in orange and green against the black backgrounds throughout the entire game. Not only does it look cool on, but its removal is just as iconic, as Samus helped to popularise female leading characters in video games way back when it first came out. Crash Bandicoot appeals to most because his signature orange is exceptionally striking in a game that is already filled with so much colour. The blue shorts and lack of a shirt showcase both the humanity within his character, as well as the animal on the outside. Also, his body, being all torso and no neck, makes his triangular frame instantly notable. A design choice that is replicatable across all iterations of our beloved Australian icon. Okay, that one doesn't count! It's harder to pull this off now more than ever before, as access to creation is even grander than what it once was. Lots of people have the chance to create, and don't get me wrong, that's a fantastic thing, but it's also really tough on the artist to be noticed in a space that is so large and even more competitive than it's ever been. I've said it 1,000 times at this point, but there are artists out there who are creating absolutely incredible work, but in a sea of absolutely incredible work, it's hard to have such things noticed. It's why it's so refreshing and incredible that Francombe's work first caught the eye of Guillaume, because his talent is exceptional, but it was hidden incredibly far away on ArtStation of all places. But as we now know, their meeting was destiny, as Guillaume has the absurdly fantastic talent of finding the most passionate and effervescent people on the planet and assembling them in a team together. While he chalks it up to luck, I really think he's underselling his genuine ability to see passion, because that is a vital skill to have, and it can take people even further if they are given the chance. Clair Obscur's characters are unlike anything we have seen in the medium thus far, especially in the JRPG sphere. We aren't working with supermodels, but instead a group of realistic looking adults, and to me, that's as sexy as it gets. Lune is rocking a beautiful long bob, a hairstyle that leaves her face completely wide open, unable to hide anything from anyone. Verso is rocking, well, my haircut, so naturally it's top tier, having a unique contrast of both looking young and old all at once. It's fantastic and fits his character perfectly. Mael's hair is nice and long, but not necessarily perfectly kept. It has both an elegance and an angst to it, which I think is very fitting for her. Her thin figure, a perfect mirror into the fragility of her nature. And Gustav, despite being the gorgeous, beautiful man he is, also upholds a rather unkept style. His hair curls in various directions, and his facial hair isn't even maintained. And while this does accentuate his wonderful moustache, I also think it shows somewhat a lack of self-care, prioritizing others at the sacrifice of himself. His efforts as well as research is always at the benefit of the people of Lumiere, with a prosthetic arm likely the result of an accident during his work there. Ciel's design is also fantastic.
I heard from a friend of mine who works with mental health as their main occupation, and they mentioned that the most expressive part of the human face is, without question, the forehead. Its contortions essentially emphasize how we're feeling in certain moments.
Ciel harboring a fringe cleverly disguises parts of herself she aims to keep hidden. Ciel is the most emotionally intelligent person in our group, but her own feelings and thoughts are not made apparent to the group quite like Lune's. Monoko, despite being an ape-like mannequin with a mask for a face, is somehow exceptionally expressionful. His slouch really backs up his laid-back demeanor, but when he's serious, his body posture matches his tone wonderfully. While most of his character comes from his dialogue and the very performance of that dialogue, his design, I'd argue, does back up his core philosophies. You never really know what Monoko is thinking. Even by the end of the game, his motivations aren't so transparent, and that ambiguous design plays directly into that. There is something so deliberate about each and every character in their designs that make them stand out so strongly, and again, I mean every character. Just hearing a name rings a bell. Just hearing a sound rings a bell. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has a lasting impact and could have their own video essay of their own. It's that good, man. But fuck the mimes, dude. He just keeps staring. Good lord, why? Ew, the kissing! Why? Please stop! God, make it stop! Stop! Lorient Testard was the perfect fit for the leading role in Clair Obscur's musical composition. However, you wouldn't know it firsthand because, like everyone who works in this company, they're exceptionally well hidden on the internet, only ever really posting a single song to SoundCloud and being noticed by Guillaume on some random musical forum. Though despite this, he could see limitless potential and passion, and boy howdy does Lorient Testard truly shine with this game's soundtrack.
The music in this game is also unique and distinctive, and that is once again driven by interpersonalism. At the forefront of Testard's mind was to create something that was a part of him, a sound and song you haven't heard before.
So like, I've read or heard on an interview that the dynamic between Verso and Monoko is inspired by the dynamic that Guillaume has with his brother in real life, right? That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Are there parts of your life, Lorient, that like, or relationships you had that kind of made their way into the music you wrote or the lyrics you wrote, stuff like that?
Yeah, the full soundtrack.
Wow.
The very fabric of the world conceived by leading art director Maxon Francombe visually needed music to supplement their artistic vision, and supplement times 10 is exactly what he did. You can feel his musical journey as an artist throughout Clair Obscur's production through the, I kid you not, over 150 songs. Though I am certain there were many that never actually made the final cut, and their quality was more than likely incredible. Let me explain. In an interview with Alex McCalla, Lorient Testard states that 2 genuinely great tracks from the game were actually considered drafts, songs not even on his personal list of favourites. Had it not been for Guillaume to excitedly proclaim his love for them and demand for their stay in the final product, we wouldn't have gotten the following bangers.
So I have like my SoundCloud playlist with like 300 songs, and this song was like at the bottom.
No way.
Yeah, and Guillaume one day told me, I like this one, let's put it in the game.
People reacting to this music, instantly you listen to this and you're like,
yeah, it's a banger.
Yeah, exactly.
So Guillaume va put it in the game.
No fucking way. Are you kidding? Really? He saved some of the best.
Every track in this game is a certified banger. The Monoko theme being just one of the funnest and sexiest themes I have ever heard in a game. Like, dude, just listen to this shit. The music, however incredible as it is on its own, works fantastically well in referral to its enhancement of the world it represents. Tracks are made to help us better understand how these landscapes feel, never outright telling you exactly what you're meant to be experiencing.
Unless you're French, because there are songs with French vocals that tell you some of the story beats, but thankfully in a way that's quite vague, so even if you understood what they were saying, you may not understand what's happening overall.
There is a main theme for each space and a new battle theme consistent with it as to never take you out of your immersion. Fights don't feel random but are organically pulled together, and part of why they aren't so jarring is because of how these tracks flow into one another. It's not as if one battle theme is just remixed over and over and over, but entirely new tracks are created that correlate with the main ambience of the area you encounter these battles in. And on another note, every victory claimed in these scapes has its own unique music mixed by the legendary Raphael Joffrys. The battle theme you just heard also gets its own beautifully slowed down version that plays once the final blow is dealt, and it flows beautifully as if the track naturally included this slowed down moment. Seriously, the amount of thought that goes into each song narratively speaking is next level. The theme that plays in the first tutorial fight of the game also secretly is used near the game's ending in a completely different track, with its meaning completely shifting from what it first meant when fighting against Mael for training to facilitate the kind of person Mael would then go on to become. It's absurdly genius just how deep the rabbit hole goes, and while I know nothing about music, I know what it's like to be moved by it, and Clair Obscur's soundtrack did so without fail every single time. One thing that gets overlooked far too often in this medium is sound design. It often falls into the background of most games, and I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Great sound design, I would argue, is all about immersion, and if audio kind of fades into the background, you could argue that that just means it's doing its job correctly. However, the opposite is also true.
There were many times where I indulged in the sacrilegious side of myself by turning the music off completely just to get a sense of the space. The sound articulating what it would truly feel like to simply exist in these surreal terrains. And don't get me wrong, I also did the sacrilege thing of, well, turning the sound off to listen to the music at times, but Lord Almighty, when you mix them together, Aichimbama! The sound design in this game is nothing short of breathtaking. Most players noted this immediately from their first interaction with the flying waters. You can hear that strange discrepancy you get when underwater. Sharp sounds suddenly sound soft and muffled. The gestural village is bustling with life. The little guys working to create items worthy of purchase, and even some bartering can be heard. A mix of English, French, Italian, and Spanish chucked together floods the streets. The sound also growing distant the further away you are from the marketplace action. Esquier's Nest has a very interesting atmosphere sound-wise. The cave is lit with glossy glass-coloured lanterns, yet no glimmer can really be heard, but instead a strange metallic creaking. The sound of the wind is quiet, but your footsteps are loud and thunderous, as are the water sprouts that emerge from inside the naturally formed lake. The stone-walled cliffs are quite dark, and while that's oppressive in its own way, the jarring sound of lanterns going alight the moment you pass them is ever more terrifying. They may be illuminating your path, but what lies within that darkness should perhaps remain within it. The Reacher is a cacophony of creaking wood, harsh winds, and laborious hammering. Easily my favourite looking level, but when it comes to atmospheric sounds, nothing quite hits the same for me as the Visages. A terrifying place with the most unique sound identity. Surrounded by gargantuan faces, you can hear the sounds of laughter, sadness, and frustration in their designated rooms. But the sound of murmuring is consistent throughout all of them, and I don't know if it's because social anxiety horror is one of my favorites, but there is something so sinister about that deliberate obscuring of sound. It's as if they are blatantly mocking you with every step, as if they all know something that you don't. And don't even get me started on the sounds you guys make. Oh, the combat is so ear candy.
The doof of the parries, the shattering of an enemy's break gauge, the sound of the gradient parry where all sound stops and is like sucked inwards and then released. But of course, the counterattack sound. Woo! Hello, Boner. But look, man, let's be real. There's no such thing as perfection. And if I'm not being honest about this, there's no point to any of this. Clair Obscur, unfortunately, does have some flaws. The amount of flaws is actually quite staggering. It's huge. It is so... if you look at the chapters, you can see this is clearly the smallest one. I don't have much to say. The game is just that fucking good, man. Believe me, I really want to have a controversial opinion. I want to have a take that was different from the norm, because I'm one of those guys. But I remember finishing the game and sitting there and saying the following words. How boring. I can't have a controversial take because it really is as good as everyone says it is. But I'm going to stop glazing for a minute and talk issues. Number 1, the mimes.
Number 2, the lip sync. It's a little rough at times, but not enough to really take me out of it. I mean, let's be honest, games don't even fucking try half the time. And in moments when it really matters, it's not super noticeable. It's more often present in quieter moments, not in pre-rendered cutscenes, but when moving around certain spaces using the same graphics as its gameplay. Number 3, platforming is a bit stiff. Thankfully, it isn't a major part in the game, and look, I know it adds to the meme of that one only up level. Believe me, I get it. But when your character keeps rolling, when you don't want them to, and they fall off a cliff, it makes me want to die! And cool. Alright, got through all that. God, that was exhausting. I find it much easier to sing praises about something I love than trying to nitpick it. All in all, tiny few things don't really hamper my enjoyment of the game, except that last one. Fuck this entire level. So with that, I've told you all plenty, so I'll wrap up the video here so you can go play the game for yourself and truly discover what this game is all about. And if you don't have a PS5 and don't mind turning your graphics down a little, I can super recommend the PC version. With that, I want to thank my wonderful patrons so much for their support. I am so sorry it's been so quiet here on the channel recently, as well as on the Patreon. My priorities have just not been here due to personal circumstances. Things are settling, finally, and I appreciate your patience. And a massive thank you to my tier 4 patrons. You guys are the fucking best. Please, everybody, a round of applause. I would be lost without these guys. Mighty Dong, Lux Koa, Sea of Clouds, Lantern Larry, Pigeon, Why Do You Ask, and Stagamatis. Truly, you guys are the absolute fucking best, and I really appreciate your support for all this time. Seriously, thank you so much. With that, please go enjoy Clair Obscur and tell me what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on here in the comments below. What is articulated excellently throughout all of Clair Obscur is how everyone in the Desandre family is dealing with loss in their own way. Renoir requires control. He wants to be the father that takes care of his family. He believes he knows what is best for all, and yet in his backwards reasoning, he only pushes those closest to him furthest away. He is fine with being the villain if it means saving his family, and then by the end of the game, we just don't view him as one. Renoir is a complicated yet genius character, one who I think we could really put ourselves in the shoes of at times. Hypothetically speaking, let's say the majority of your family were undergoing a coma of sorts. Just stick with me here, I know that's fucked up, but just stick with me. You're somehow made aware that the dreams they're experiencing are genuinely wonderful, and while real to them, you perceive them only as dreams. Someone on the outside watching as their real bodies begin to grow weaker and weaker. You can free them from that coma at the cost of their happiness within it. Renoir is a realist, and while he grieves for his son, he knows the Desandre household aren't safe. The time spent in the canvas is having adverse effects on their bodies outside of it. He can't help watching as his family suffers every day, and knowing such a fate could befall his remaining children frightens him to no end. He truly wants his family back because he also knows how gripping these attachments can be. He doesn't just view those who wander inside the canvas as all make-believe after all. He even shows sympathy for them. But at the end of the day, the thing he values above all else is his family, the one from outside the canvas. Aline's mourning is at everyone's detriment as well, holding onto the only physical thing remaining of her son after the fire took him. The canvas is the last remaining piece of Verso, and she refuses to let it go. To do so would be to move on from him, but she believes here in the canvas she never has to. And while the realist in me wants to say, obviously this world is fiction, so she needs to let go. She still has a family. While broken they are still there for her. To be real, I know exactly what this is like, to use media as a means to escape,
the trauma of your own life. And while I would say my circumstance was not exactly the exact same as that portrayed in this game, I will say some of the similarities were quite striking. So I get it. I'd be lying if I said I didn't use external media as a means to pretend that some things haven't changed at the passing of somebody. Grieving isn't as easy as just letting go. It's a process that's unique to the individual and their experience. And I hope one day when I have kids of my own, I never have to experience what the DeSandre family did. The parents losing a child is one of the most horrifying things I could imagine someone has to go through.
Any means of avoiding the painful reminders of where her son used to be, she will partake in. Her time in the canvas amidst her grieving has now become her new norm, unable to realize the hurt especially done to the one who bears the heaviest of guilt. While I never want to make the act of grieving a contest, young Mael wins in every conceivable way. Swayed by the rioters, her young naivety allegedly leading to the inevitable DeSandre household fire. The fire which her older brother Verso perished in trying to save her. Mael bears horrible scars of that day, trapped in a body that reminds her of the tragedy, with a voice unable to cry out in pain. Every day she is forced to live with the guilt of her brother's passing in utter silence. Her mother unable to even look at her as she reminds her of Verso, even growing to detest her completely. Mael was a child of hope, the youngest of the family with her talents yet to be truly recognized. But she cannot simply just live out the rest of her life as if everything is okay. Despite this, Renoir never stopped believing in her. He never stopped believing that things would get better if they were together. But who could blame Mael for doubting his words? Who could blame her for wanting to live out a lifetime with the Verso she never had the chance to have? Who could blame her for finding peace with her second family inside the canvas? Mael's entire childhood is riddled in death. Who could blame her now for having the power to escape and abusing it? This world is so much more forgiving, with endless possibilities she cannot find outside the canvas. While Renoir can say things will get better, while he can truly try with all his might to ensure she has the greatest chance of fulfilling a worthwhile life, Mael is overtaking chances. She is tired and just wants to be at peace, which is why when the final scene occurs, the decision between who will control the fate of the canvas isn't so black and white.
I remember exactly what it was like when this decision first came up on screen. I was sitting in my little brother's room playing the game on my PlayStation. I could feel his eyes in the back of my head. He could feel the tension in the room because he had to make this decision before, and I'm sure he felt the exact same way I did. I sat there trying to articulate loudly what I think is the right thing to do, who I think should control the fate of the canvas. And then at one point I sat in silence and I waited for the answer to come to me. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And lo and behold, it never did. No matter how much I tried to avoid it, I knew deep down, no matter what I do, the result will be the same. People are going to suffer as a direct result of my decision, making this one of the most haunting screens you'll ever encounter in your gaming journey.
I remember even thinking how much quickly the fight and the cinematic ending screens were compared to how long it took me to make a decision in that moment. While the realist in me again wants to just proclaim it's just a metaphor for how we can't use media to escape our problems. We can't pretend these issues don't exist by averting our eyes. We need to face and embrace them. But the person who played this game, the person who met all of these fantastic characters, all of which we have finally given hope to channeling all of the canvas's chroma, could I really, for the sake of my family, prevent them all from having a chance of their own? Maybe they all do exist in the painting, but who are we to take the lives we gave them? Renoir himself even acknowledges this. We have journeyed through all of these lands with these people. Who are we to say who has the right to live and the right to die? But even if we pick Mael's ending, death is inevitable. Verso is forced to live a life he doesn't want, the same way Mael tries to escape hers outside the canvas. He is forced into a shoddy attempt at living where his will isn't even his own. In going through Mael's ending, Renoir and Aline will lose another one of their children. Their family will suffer even greater loss and truly be beyond repair, It's likely with Mael's stay, the family will try to enter the canvas over and over to get back their daughter, wreaking havoc until they eventually wither and die. The cycle of grief will never truly end. The only way this family will have their peace will be letting go of their dear Verso, the only way for the world inside the canvas to thrive being to leech off of what's left of him for all eternity. While Mael has allowed the painted Verso to age, the real, true last essence of him will continue to paint a painting he doesn't want to anymore. There is no right or wrong choice. Each bears reward and each bears sacrifice. You will never leave this game feeling like you did entering it. You felt hopeful for the future of Lumiere and its people when it first started, and now you don't know how to feel. But you do know by the end of this, you got to experience something really, really special. What Clair Obscur offers in that moment is something so profound. It offers a choice, and how, like in real life, we never truly know where it will lead. A choice without a clear right and wrong, but one you will have to make. And it is solely up to how you perceive life, how you perceive art, how you feel interacting with the core philosophies of this game. This ending is one of the most interpersonal experiences I have ever had, and for that I will forever be thankful. But I am most thankful to Sandfall Games for giving me an even greater choice. The choice to even play their 7 years of hard work. And while that choice was incredibly simple, I'm glad I did. Because Clair Obscur is better than a fucking masterpiece.
You're all hypocrites. Doing the same thing to each other.
Don't want to lose you either.
Life keeps forcing wrong choices. For those who come after me.
Oh, I'm also glad I did the mini game and got the sexy Verso swimsuit skin, because now I can finally beat Simon.
I'm so nervous. Oh, that's fine, because no one's dead, so we're all good. Fuck. Wait, what? Oh! He just deletes your team. Like, he just deletes your team. Fuck this game, man. 0 out of 10.